Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag, the all-mailbag installment here on AMC Movie News, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name's John Campea. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. Now, AMC Mailbag, very different from AMC Movie Talk, which we do on this YouTube channel from Monday through Friday, and in the sense that it's more laid back, it's more relaxed, we talk a little behind the scenes, we take our time, and just enjoy ourselves just talking about movies. And all we do is take your questions about movies. Now, I want to let you guys know a little announcement here, just to be prepared for, but we are going to be changing the name of this show. As you know, we announced a little while ago that AMC Movie Talk, between now and January, maybe sooner, maybe a little bit later, but by January at the latest, we are going to be launching or doing AMC Mailbag as a daily show, 7 days a week, Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday. But the Monday through Friday is going to be just a little bit different than the weekend one. So this show, the Saturday and Sunday show, is going to be renamed sometime in the next, 4 to 10 weeks. Is going to be renamed AMC Weekend Mailbag. Just so you know, because it's going to be a little bit different than the other ones. How is it going to be different? Well, I can't let you know that yet. That's all coming. You'll see how it's going to be a little bit different. But it is going to be just a little bit different. It is still going to be basically all your guys' questions and comments and your thoughts. But it's just going to be structured a bit differently. So this show is going to be known as AMC Weekend Mailbag, and the other show, Monday through Friday, will just be known as Mailbag. For now, this is still just Mailbag, though. And since this is Mailbag, let's get to your mailbag questions. And the first question today comes to us from McFalann Calixte, who writes, I hope I'm saying your name right, McFalann, was just reading an article where it was stated that Guardians of the Galaxy in China will be renamed Interstellar Special Ability Team. We were actually talking about that on AMC Movie Talk earlier this week. I noticed that when domestic films go overseas, or when films made overseas are brought here, sometimes the original titles are changed. Is it because the original title can get lost in translation? Or is it a national/political issue like the first Captain America movie? Or that some studio execs feel that the change in title would draw more people in? Well, McFalann, you kind of covered all the bases there. It's yes to everything that you just said. Number one, yeah, you do have to be careful because some things get lost in translation, absolutely. Number two, I'm sure there are some political issues being dealt with, such as, Captain America. Well, that's not a great title to play in a different country. So in some countries, it was called, I just believe the title of the film was The First Avenger, was the name of the film, which is a totally fine title as well. So sometimes they'll change it for that. But sometimes they'll just title it. The distributor will want to put a title on it that best will sell the film in whatever their particular market is. So that's why quite often you'll get some movies that are named one thing. I mean, not all the time, but quite often you'll get some movies that are named something here in North America and something totally different overseas. Now, this one about Guardians of the Galaxy, what was the name of it again? Interstellar Special Ability Team. It was in China. It got me on this really mad search for... and I came across a bunch of other titles, and these are all real, by the way. A bunch of other oddly named films that had their name changed in China. So these are some popular North American films, and what their their title in China is. Okay, so here we go. We'll start with this one: American Hustle, a recent film, of course, with Christian Bale. Its name in China was United States Cheat Bureau. American Hustle was known as United States Cheat Bureau. The movie Up, the great Pixar film Up, its title in China is Touring Around on a Flying House. The name of the film was Touring Around on a Flying House. Hey, what are you going to go see tonight? I'm going to go see Touring Around on a Flying House. The film Knocked Up with Seth Rogen was called One Night, Big Belly. Knocked Up was called One Night, Big Belly. Finding Nemo, great classic, another Pixar film, was called Seabed General Mobilization. Seabed General Mobilization. The movie Full Monty, Six Naked Pigs, which, whatever. I guess that one actually kind of applies pretty well. G.I. Jane. This is an interesting one. G.I. Jane is known as Satan Female Soldier. Satan female soldier. As Good as It Gets, one of my favorite Jack Nicholson movies. As Good as It Gets was called Mr. Cat Poop. I'm not making this up. The name was Mr. Cat Poop. The movie Twister, of course, about the tornadoes and everything. The name of the movie in China was Run, Run, Cloudzilla. Run, Run, Cloudzilla. And one of my other favorites here is, of course, the classic Julia Roberts, Richard Gere film, Pretty Woman, was called I Will Marry a Prostitute to Save Money. The name of the movie in China was I Will Marry a Prostitute to Save Money. So, yes, sometimes in different markets, man, we can get some really strange titles on things. Normally, it doesn't go that crazy. But there it is for that. All right, let's move on to the next question today. Thanks a lot for the question, man. The next question today comes to us from Jessica Myers, who writes, Hi, guys. Thank you so much for keeping me company on my 30-minute bus ride to work each morning as I watch on my iPhone. Well, thank you so much for watching us, Jessica. My question is, what do you make of Marvel attacking and trying to undermine Fox by canceling the Fantastic Four comic series? Keep bringing the filthy. For those of you who don't know, this has been a report that's been going around for a number of days, maybe even a week now, that Marvel is sticking it to Fox. They're trying to undermine Fox. They're trying to sabotage Fox because, Fox is making another Fantastic Four movie. And Marvel wants the rights to Fantastic Four back. So they're going to do everything they can to undermine and engage in espionage and try to make Fox fail with Fantastic Four. And how are they going to do it? I know. We'll cancel the Fantastic Four comic book. That'll really stick it to Fox. No one's going to go watch the movies now. Ha, 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 ha. We're such evil geniuses over here at Marvel. And the strange thing is that a lot of sites have been running with this story that Marvel is attempting to undercut Fox by canceling Fantastic Four. Here's the problem. That's being reported as fact, and this is one of the big problems with online film sites today. They're running with it as fact and running these headlines that makes the average reader believe that's what's happening, but nowhere does it actually say that's what's happening. Nobody at Marvel has said, in an effort to reclaim our Fantastic Four property, we're going to undermine Fox by doing this. Nobody has said this. This has all been pure speculation and conjecture on part of some websites who write it as fact, and then the reader, and this is why I hate this practice so much, the reader just reads the headline and says, oh, Marvel undermining Fox by canceling Fantastic Four. Well, that's kind of petty of them to do. And so it's left to the reader to go, oh, well, wow, that's kind of strange, when it's not really the case. My challenge, the reason why I do not believe this story whatsoever, number one, because nobody at Marvel has said this is what they're doing. They are canceling the comic book series, but nobody at Marvel said the reason we're canceling is because of this. Number two, and this is a big issue, okay? Canceling the comic book series will not make one less ticket get sold to Fantastic Four, the movie. Not one. It's not going to affect it in the least, and Marvel knows that. And one of the reasons it's not going to affect the Fantastic Four movie at all is because, and I'm not using hyperbole here, I'm being dead serious, more people are watching this show, AMC Mailbag, for Saturday, October 10th. I believe it's the 10th. Let me just double check here. Yes. No, the 11th. For Saturday, October the 11th. More people are going to watch this episode of this show than all the people who are buying Fantastic Four comic books. The Fantastic Four is not in the top 10 of comic book sales. It's not in the top 20. It's not in the top 30. It's not in the top 40. It's not in the top 50. It's not in the top 60. And no, it's not in the top 70. And yay, it's not even in the top 80. And it's not in the top 90 either. It's around number 96 in the comic book sales. It sold 28,000 copies. 28,000 people are buying the Fantastic Four comic book. More people are going to be watching this episode of AMC Mailbag than are going to be buying that Fantastic Four comic book. Which means if Marvel got everybody who bought the Fantastic Four comic book to boycott the Fantastic Four movie by Fox, it's going to cost Fox $280,000 at the box office. Let me repeat that. If Marvel canceling the canceling the Fantastic Four comic book would prevent everybody who reads Fantastic Four from buying a ticket to go see the movie when it comes out, and of course it won't. It's not going to make one difference. But if it did, and it made everybody who reads Fantastic Four not go to the movie, you know how much money they just cost Fox? $280,000. Considering the average movie ticket in America right now is a little under $10. So let's round it up. Let's say $10. $280,000 at the box office. Not $28 million, not $280 million, not even $2.8 million. $280,000. And on top of that, people having the Fantastic Four comic book canceled is not going to prevent them from going to see the movie at all. But the other thing to keep in mind is this. If Marvel was really trying to stick it to Fox by canceling the comic books that are associated with the Fox movies, why aren't they canceling the X-Men? They're not canceling X-Men. X-Men comics are still running. They're not canceling those. So there goes that theory out the window. Marvel Comics is canceling the Fantastic Four comic book series because nobody reads them. Nobody reads them. And it's sad that nobody reads them, and I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons why nobody reads them, but nobody reads them. Look, it's somewhere in the back of Marvel executive minds, is there a thought that goes, hey, an added bonus is maybe we'll lessen the interest some people might have in the Fantastic Four movie since we're canceling the comic book? I'm sure that's somewhere in their back of their heads too. Sure, maybe they see that as an added bonus. But Marvel aren't a bunch of idiots, and only an insane collective group of idiots would cancel their comic book series because they think it might affect the movie that the other studios put. It's not going to make any difference in the world. Not 1 ounce of difference. And even if it was, like we already said, make everybody who reads Fantastic Four not go see the movie, great. You just took half of a drop of the bucket, $280,000 at the box office gone. But really, it's not going to stop anybody. So I don't put any stock in all these reports running around that Marvel is sticking it to Fox by canceling Fantastic Four, because people at Fox and everybody with common sense knows that Marvel canceling the Fantastic Four comic book is not going to affect, positively or negatively, one bit of how many people go to see Fantastic Four the movie. Now, Fantastic Four may be a huge blockbuster hit. It may be a total box office disaster. But whether it's a blockbuster hit or a box office disaster, it'll have nothing to do with Marvel Comics canceling the Fantastic Four comic book. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. I'd like to know what you guys think about this. All right, let's move on to the next question today. And the next question today comes from Haytch, who writes, "Hey, AMC crew, love your show." Well, thank you so much. You guys are my only trusted source of movie news. I've always wondered if one day the projector and screen system would one day eventually be upgraded to massive LCD or flat panel digital display. Do you think that the reason that we still watch movies through a projector is to keep a classic or sentimental feel from the early days of cinema? Hey, man, totally fair question. That's actually a really fair question and an interesting observation about, wanting to hold on to the sentimentality of projector and screen. But if that were the case, then 95% of theaters in North America today wouldn't be digital projectors. They'd still be film, like film and reels, which they aren't anymore. Almost every movie theater in America now is digital projection. But that's not the main thing here. The main reason why we still have projector and screen, and why we're going to continue to have projector and screen for a long time still, is because cost effectiveness and picture resolution. All right, let's start with cost effectiveness. Right now, the biggest LCD screen in the world is at, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe is at Cowboy Stadium, where the Dallas Cowboys play football. It's a big, massive LCD screen. The cost of that screen is $40 million for that one screen. $40 million. Now, I'm sure a lot of theaters would not necessarily need a screen as big as the one they have in Cowboy Stadium, but we are still talking about the millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, to put these screens in. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is this, is that giant screen in Cowboy Stadium is only 1080. it's only HD, like regular household HD. It's not 2K, it's not 4K, it's not 8K. It's just 1080. So right now, the technology is a barrier to having big LCD screens in there, and it's extremely cost prohibitive. So you got to get a screen that is high enough resolution that having a screen that big isn't going to look crappy. But on top of that, you have to get the cost down to the point where maybe it costs $1 million or less to put one of those screens in, as opposed to, $20 million, $18 million, $25 million per screen. It becomes incredibly cost prohibitive. So the reason that we still have projector and screen today is because that is still the absolute best way to watch and see a movie. Now, 10 years from now, is that going to be the case? I don't know. I mean, theaters in North America made the transition from traditional film and reel to digital projection awfully fast. So could it all happen within 10 years that we do away with the projector system and just have a massive high-res LCD type screen? It's possible in 10 years or so. It's impossible for somebody like me to project where the technology is going to be, but that's what's holding it up right now. It's certainly not a sense of nostalgia or anything like that, but it's a great question. All right, let's move on to the next question today. And the next question today comes to us from Brock Humphreys, who writes, "Hello and greetings from Minneapolis. I love the show and watch almost every day." Well, thanks so much, Brock. I appreciate that. Question is about the Batman v Superman. Why are they moving the release date to March 24th, 2016? Don't you think they've made the fans wait long enough? And is this bad news for X-Men Apocalypse with it being released a week or two after? Thanks. Well, a couple things to clear up here first, okay? The first thing that we've got to point out is that actually Batman v Superman opens on March 25th officially. And X-Men Apocalypse doesn't open a week or two later. It actually opens 2 months later on May 27th. So there's actually a huge gap between Batman versus Superman and X-Men Apocalypse. Batman v Superman, if it's even still in theaters, is going to be in its 8th or 9th week at the box office. So it's not going to have any impact whatsoever on X-Men Apocalypse. So don't worry about that. The two are not going to affect each other, so they'll be fine. Now, but why did they push it? Well, that's a question a lot of us have been asking. That's been the $1 million question, because I've always made the argument that Warner Brothers, the date change made Warner Brothers look bad. Because one of two things went wrong. Either they don't know what they're doing now, or they didn't know what they were doing before. Because they changed their date pretty fast. They made the announcement of summer 2015 back in Comic-Con. They made that announcement, which means they had plenty of time. They sat around, they looked at what their plan was, and figured, according to our plan and what we've got, we can release this film in summer of 2015. Well, then not too much longer later, they came and said, "Oh, actually, we're pushing it to 2016," which kind of meant that they were flying by the seat of their pants when they made the first announcement. And it's like, "Oh, no, wait, we changed our minds. Let's move everything around." So I think it was a bad thing. But when people ask me, why is Warner Brothers making people wait? Well, it's not about making fans wait. It's about Warner Brothers, for right or wrong, doing what they feel is best for their movie. Now, let's keep in mind, it's one thing for somebody like me to sit here and say, it made them look bad, and it's one thing for us to complain about having to wait to 2016 and complain about this and complain about that. But at the end of the day, only Warner Brothers knows all the facts. Only Warner Brothers knows all the dynamics in motion here. And therefore, only they know why moving it to, March of 2016 was the right move for them. And whether it was the right move for them, only history will tell. But right now, Warner Brothers is in the best position to determine why they want to do it. Maybe they're going to shoot Justice League back-to-back with the film, and to do that, they needed to push the first film back a bit. Who knows? We simply don't know. So I really wouldn't look at it as a case of Warner Brothers is making the fans wait. No, that's not what they're doing. They don't want to make their fans wait. They want to give the fans what they want. But they want to make sure they're giving the right product to their fans. And, like I said before, they're the only ones who know all the moving pieces that's going into putting this film together, how they want to market and put it out, and why moving it to 2016 was the best move for them at the time. I do wish they had shown more forethought and shown more wisdom by doing that earlier and not announcing an earlier date at first and then showing that they didn't actually know what they were talking about and they've now suddenly changed their minds and now it's being pushed to 2016. But that's just me nitpicking. I mean, really, let's wait and see. I'm insanely excited for Batman v Superman. I've said this before, other than the Gal Gadot thing, which I'm forcing myself to come on board with. But other than that, I think I like almost everything I've seen. All the people they've got involved, the casting they've done, from what I'm hearing about the story, all that kind of stuff, it all has me excited. And I think we are going to be in for a treat come both March and May 27th of 2016. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Thomas Garrett, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show and listen every day." Thank you, Thomas. With comic book movies now the norm and studios taking notice of the source material, do you believe we will get to the point where comic book movies are written by comic book writers? Well, Thomas, I've kind of addressed this question before, and here's the thing about, I'm committed to being honest, and being honest often means saying the thing that's not popular. But I'm not here to say what's popular. I'm here to say what I actually think. And then you guys can decide, hey, whether to agree with it or say, I disagree, John, because of this, and this. So here's the thing. No, comic book writers should not be screenwriters unless they're trained as screenwriters. Listen, I've written a number of screenplays. I was going to say a lot of screenplays. I haven't written a lot of screenplays, but I've written a number of screenplays. I know how to write a screenplay. I've worked at it a lot, whatever. But I've recently embarked on writing a novel, and it's been taking me a couple of years now to write this novel because I don't know how to write novels. Writing a novel is a very, 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 very different thing from writing a screenplay. And so I should have been done my novel by now, but I'm not. And this is actually just a cheap way for me to also plug my novel. I've got a novel coming out, and keep your eyes open for it. Anyway, so writing a novel is a massively different thing than writing a screenplay. Just because you can write a screenplay does not mean you can write a novel. They are kind of different things. And just because you can write a comic book does not mean you can write a screenplay or understand the dynamics of an actual live screen and how things... Comic book writers, to their credit, and this is a good thing, comic book writers are focused on telling these stories in minimal number of words and understanding how still pictures are going to be conveying those stories as they write what they're doing, come up with their story structure and all that kind of stuff, right? But writing for a live-action motion picture is a totally different thing. Now, whenever I get into this discussion with friends of mine, inevitably everybody wants to go, well, John, what about Joss Whedon, huh? Joss Whedon's a comic book writer, and last time I checked, he's a pretty good screenwriter too. Well, okay, yes, but there's two things to keep in mind about the Joss Whedon situation. Number one, there's an exception to every rule. There's an exception to every rule. I mean, just because one guy once threw a basketball from under his own net and it went in the other side does not mean it's a good idea to shoot the basketball from under your own net and thinking you're going to get it in on the other side. There's an exception to every rule, but what drives me crazy in any type of debate with friends of mine is when they take what is clearly the exception and try to make that their argument. Like you try to say, I don't know, like... generally, I don't like pistachio ice cream. I'm just making something up here, okay? I don't like pistachio ice cream. I've had pistachio ice cream 100 times. I don't like pistachio ice cream. But then, when my friend will say, but John, that one time we were driving through Dallas, we stopped that place, and the only ice cream they had was pistachio, and you ate it, and you liked it, so you can't say you don't like pistachio ice cream. That was the exception. That was the 1 out of 100. That was the exception. That doesn't make that a valid argument. Maybe if I was saying I never like pistachio ice cream, then that becomes an argument. But to say, generally speaking, I don't like pistachio ice cream, getting the exception out and saying, that proves your point wrong. So with the Joss Whedon thing, Joss is the exception. He's one of the very rare exceptions. But the other thing to keep in mind about Joss Whedon, and this is the bigger argument, so remember, Joss Whedon was a screenwriter long before he ever wrote comic books. He was a screenwriter first. He comes from a line of screenwriters. His dad was a television screenwriter. His dad's dad was a television screenwriter. He comes from a long line of screenwriters. He was writing for Roseanne in the 80s. And then was like a ghost script doctor in the 90s for movies like Speed and a bunch of other films too. He was a screenwriter long before he was a comic book writer. So keep that in mind too about the Joss Whedon situation. Now, am I saying, much like my pistachio ice cream scenario, am I saying it can never work? That a comic book writer can never write a screenplay writer can never write a comic book? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm simply saying, if I'm investing, let's say I'm a producer and I'm going to invest $150 million into a film, who do I want writing the screenplay? I want the screenplay being written by a guy who has just dedicated his life to the craft of writing screenplays. That's who I want writing the screenplay. Go purchase some good source material, some good comic book storylines and whatever, and hand them to a gifted screenwriter and let them write the screenplay. That's what I would do if it was my money at risk. So will we see a comic book writer transition to being screenwriter? I have no doubt that we're going to see that happen. It happens now. There are exceptions to that today. But I'm saying don't disrespect the art of comic book writing. Don't disrespect the art of screenplay writing by just looking at these two very unique arts and going, oh, they're just interchangeable. If you can do one, you can do the other, no problem. I believe that's disrespectful to the craft of comic book writing and the people who do it. I believe that's disrespectful to the craft of screenplay writing and the people that do it. I think it demeans both when you just say, oh, they're just interchangeable. They're just interchangeable. Anybody can do one. If you can do one, you can do the other. And it's like, that makes comic book writers go, oh, really? It's what I do is that easy. That guy can just come in and do what I do. It makes screenplay writers go, really? What I do is so easy that a guy who doesn't write screenplays can just come over and just write a great screenplay. Once again, lightning in a bottle. There are exceptions to every rule. Absolutely, absolutely. I'll make that argument for you, so you don't have to make it against me. I'll argue it for you. But generally speaking, in general, no, I don't want to see my comic book movies being written by comic book writers. I want to see them written by screenplay writers. But that's just me. That's just me. You guys can have a totally different opinion on that if you like, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. That's what this show's all about, man. Throwing out different ideas from each other. All right, let's move on to the next question today. And the next question today comes to us from Thomas Edwards, who writes, hey guys, big fan. Was wondering how you would rank the importance of the awards. We all know the Oscars are first, but what about after that? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. I like that question. Thanks a lot, Thomas, because it makes me think, yeah, the Academy Awards are obviously the granddaddy of the awards. And I know there's some people out there who think they're cool by going, oh, awards are stupid. They don't mean anything. Well, actually, they mean a lot. They actually do mean a lot. Maybe not to you, and that's cool, but they mean a lot, both from an artistic pride point of view, from a business point of view. They mean a lot. And the Academy Awards is the most legit. Their system is the best. Then what comes in second? This is all really, really debatable. But I think the next 2/3 are all very, very, very close. But I'm going to say the next ones are tied, but because they're different things. And that's the SAG Awards, the Screen Actors Guild, and the Directors Guild of America Awards. I believe those are the next two most important ones. SAG, the Screen Actors Guild Awards, are awards given out for acting, both individually and as in ensembles, and that's given by the members of the Screen Actors Guild. So it's acting awards being actually presented by actors. Acting awards actually being presented by actors, which I think is very key. And of course, the Directors Guild Award is the directors giving out their award for best direction, which I think means a lot. So I think that's great. Like, for instance, the Oscars got it wrong the other year. Ben Affleck should have won the Oscar for best director when he wasn't even nominated for Argo. Yet the Directors Guild of America named Ben Affleck the best director of the year. And so this is, and he also won every other major award for best director that year, but the Oscars got it wrong. Every once in a while, the Oscars get it wrong. And in that case, they got it wrong clearly. So my number 2/3 tied spot for importance are the SAG Awards and the Directors Guild Awards. And number 3 for me is the Broadcast Film Critic Awards. I think that's a great, legit organization. Have a lot of respect for them, even though they told me that I couldn't be in the Broadcast Film Critics Society because my movie reviews are on YouTube, and that's not a legitimate outlet. I try to explain to them, you do know that YouTube isn't an outlet, right? It's just a medium. But anyway, it was arguing. I did decide not to pursue the argument with them, so I left. But I still love the broadcast film critics. I think they're great, and I love their awards. I think they're the next big awards. And after that is probably the Golden Globes, which is kind of a useless award, but whatever, it's up there. It's certainly better than any fan-voted award. That's the one thing. Any awards that are fan-voted, I pay absolutely no attention to. It's like, John, isn't that a disrespect to the fans? No, not at all. I am a movie fan. I'm a movie fan, and I don't want fan-voted awards. Why? Why don't I want fan-voted movie awards? Well, because if it's fan-voted, that means my cousin Angela can vote. My cousin Angela watches maybe 4 or 5 movies a year. Do I want my cousin Angela having a vote on what the best movie of the year should be when all she's seen is, I don't know, Divergent and City of Bones and the last Twilight film and whatever? And do I want her voting on best movie of the year? No. I don't want Best Movie of the Year to just be a popularity contest. I want it voted on by people who have seen the majority of the films that year. I want people voting on Best Picture who have seen like 150 to 400 films that year because they're the ones qualified. Like in the NBA, they don't let the people vote for most valuable player who've only seen 3 players play that year. That would make it useless. And that's what fan-voted awards are. They're useless because anybody who's seen one movie that year, and, you know, I love Transformers 4. I'm voting it best movie of the year. Really? Really? But that's what happens. So that's why you get the running joke that is the MTV Movie Awards, because that's why you get ridiculous things like that. So for me, it's Oscars, then the Guild Awards, SAG, Directors Guild, then the Broadcast Film Critics, and then running up rear for me would be Golden Globes, and then after Golden Globes, anything that's a fan-voted thing. I'm leaving out the individual city critic associations. Like there's the Los Angeles Film Critics Society, there's the Boston Film Critics Society. I would actually put those above the Golden Globes. I would have the Broadcast Film Critics Society, and then the regional film critic societies would probably be in there too. So, but hey, that's the beautiful thing about this stuff. Everybody's going to have a different view or a different thought on that. So, hey guys, hop in the comments section. Let me know what you would give the order to. Maybe the Oscars wouldn't be first for you. Maybe the Broadcast Film Critics Society is your number one spot. Maybe the Guild Awards are your number one spot. Maybe the Golden Globes are your number one spot. Hop on down in there and let us know what you think. That's the important thing. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes from Sam Nijson, who writes, "Hello, sons and daughters of AMC. I was wondering, last week a Belgian director was on a talk show to talk about his first American film. And in the interview, he stated that you can't actually direct big stars like Russell Crowe or Denzel Washington. Is that true?" Well, I'm going to say no, but it depends. It depends on how big the ego is of an actor, how experienced or how much the director has the respect of people working with him. Ideally speaking, a director should, or an actor should know their place. And their place is to be there to serve the movie, and that means serving the director. It's the director's film. And they're there to bring all of their universe of talent to bring about the director's vision for the film. And that's what an actor should do. And the best actors do that. For instance, we had Antoine Fuqua, the director of Training Day, and of course the new Denzel Washington film, The Equalizer, which I like a lot. And he and I were talking about his relationship with Denzel and why they work well together. And it's because Denzel trusts him. Denzel Washington is an Academy Award-winning actor. He's one of the most respected actors in our business. If anybody was going to cop a diva attitude, Denzel Washington would have the resume to do it and have an excuse for it. But Denzel Washington trusts Antoine Fuqua. So when Antoine Fuqua says, hey, Antoine Fuqua, who it's his job as a director to think about the overall picture, all the moving pieces, not just Denzel's performance. He's thinking about how every nuance, every line, every action plays into the rest of the film as a whole. The actor doesn't have to do that. The actor needs to focus just on their performance, and therefore they need to listen to the director. And when you have an actor who's paired up with a director that they trust, then great things happen. That's why why Martin Scorsese likes working with Leo DiCaprio so much, and vice versa, because Leo trusts Scorsese. I mean, that's why, Scorsese and De Niro had that relationship for so long. That's why Burton and Depp have that relationship and worked in so many films together, because they trust each other and they do their stuff. Now, every once in a while, you'll get a total diva actor who steps on set and just sees themselves as in charge. And that's unfortunate. Kevin Smith actually tells a story. What was the name of that film that he did with Bruce Willis? Something Cop Buddies or Buddy Cops or whatever it was called. That cop movie that Kevin Smith directed. And dude, if you want to hear a horror story, look up Kevin Smith, Bruce Willis. Just look that up and find the stories that Kevin Smith will tell about the nightmare that it was to work with Bruce Willis. Now, that's not to say that Bruce Willis is a bad guy. That's not to say Bruce Willis is like that with every director he works with. But for whatever reason, the relationship between Bruce and Kevin Smith didn't work. Bruce Willis wasn't listening to Kevin Smith. And that's one of the reasons, there are many, but that's one of the reasons why that movie was a mess. When you got the lead actor who thinks he's bigger than the film and won't listen to the director. Once again, I'm not passing judgment on Bruce Willis. There's just something about the dynamic between him and Kevin Smith that did not work. He gave Kevin Smith nightmares. And as a result of that, you get a terrible film. So I believe the best actors, like look at, Ben Affleck. He's the new Batman, for heaven's sakes. But he loves working with David Fincher, and it comes across in Gone Girl. He listened to every word Fincher said and took all the direction he gave him. Except for, I don't know if you guys heard the story or not. There was a scene in Gone Girl where Ben Affleck's character is in an airport and trying to be unnoticed and incognito. So he's got a baseball cap on, and he was in New York at the time. So David Fincher wanted him to wear a Yankees cap. And if you know anything about Ben Affleck, he is a Boston boy through and through. He is a Boston boy. There's no way he was going to wear a Yankees cap. And so Fincher was like doing what Fincher should do. He was like, dude, this is for the movie. This is what the character would do. Do it. And Ben Affleck's like, dude, you have no idea how many nightmares this is going to cause me. Not just because it's going to feel unholy to me to wear a Yankees cap, but I'm never going to hear the end of it from everybody I know for the rest of my life. They're going to prod me with this and poke at me with this, blah, blah. So eventually they came to a compromise. And if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about, where instead of a Yankees cap, Ben Affleck wore a New York Mets cap because that's more digestible to Boston Red Sox fans, I guess. I love that story. I thought that was a great story. So yes, the best directors still listen, or the best actors still listen to their directors, because when they don't, man, the films turn out to be a mess. And the best actors are the ones who have the humility to know my job is to bring my wealth and expertise in acting to carry out the director's vision of this film. And hopefully they can form a relationship of trust and working with each other to make that come to life and make that happen. So, but like I said, exceptions to everything, man. I'm sure the Kevin Smith, Bruce Willis nightmare story is not the only nightmare story out there. All right, let's move on to the next question. And actually, this is our last question of the day. The next question today comes to us from Chris Sharp, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show and look forward to it every day." Well, thank you so much, Chris. Though Shaun of the Dead... Though Shaun of the Dead once and always will be the king of the Cornetto films, The World's End has surpassed Hot Fuzz for my second favorite of the three. I was wondering, which one of these Cornetto films is your favorite, and is there any hope for Wright, Penn, and Frost to collaborate in the future for a fourth installment? Thanks, and may the force be with you. Well, absolutely. Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost, they are going to do more films together in the future. There's no doubt about that. These are three great friends. They love working together. They've had success working together. They're going to continue working together. They're going to take breaks, go off and do some other things, and then they're going to come back and do some more things together. Always will. I've no doubt about it. I've actually sat... you can just check this picture right here. Me with the guys, talking. And I actually was asking them behind stage before we did this Q&A I did with Wright, Penn, and Frost for World's End. We were actually backstage for a little while talking, and I asked them straight up, I said, I trust this isn't the end of the line for the three of you guys working together. And they said, oh, hell no. No, they're going to do more stuff together in the future, no doubt. As far as how I would rank the Cornetto trilogy, far and away, the best one is Shaun of the Dead. That's just, that's going to be one of these all-time cult classics to me. So Shaun of the Dead, number one. Number two for me is Hot Fuzz. And number three is World's End. I think they went from fantastic which is Shaun of the Dead, to really good, which is Hot Fuzz, to good for World's End. I like World's End. I do. but I'd say it's a good movie. I wouldn't say World's End is a really good movie, a fantastic movie. I wouldn't say that, but I would say it's a good film that I enjoyed. So that'd be my order: Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then coming up in last place, but still quite good, is World's End. Well, folks, that'll do it for me for this installment of AMC Mailbag. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, everything on this show is just my opinion. What's really important is the discussion and the debate. If you guys have an opinion on anything we talked about today, whether it's agreeing with me like the smart, intelligent people you are, or whether it's disagreeing with me like the smart, intelligent people you are, jump into the comments section and leave your thoughts and your point of view on any or all the topics we discuss here today. Hey, listen, don't forget, if you've got a question that you'd like to see on AMC Movie Talk, you can email us at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Maybe you'll see your question on an AMC Mailbag. Maybe you'll see it on AMC Movie Talk during the week. Also, don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Get your tickets at www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater, showtime, and, of course, your movie ticket information. So that'll do it for me, guys. My name's John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.